We have lots of NHL news and rumors to take a look at today, including some interesting takes on the Montreal Canadiens. We're looking at the futures of Kirby Dach, Arbor Xhekaj, and even head coach Marty St. Louis. We'll take a look at the latest information from the media suggesting what their futures might hold. Of course, tonight is the NHL Frozen Frenzy. We have a fine for Maple Leafs defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson, all kinds of other injury and roster updates. A signing in St. Louis, and head coach Paul Maurice in Florida has been extended. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here tonight. Before we get into the Habs rumors, we got a few signings and other details I want to take a look at here first. We actually have a quick update from the NHL waiver wire. Nothing too earth-shattering, but Matthew Highmore, who was on waivers with the Ottawa Senators, did clear, so he's been reassigned to Belleville today. The Ottawa Senators had him on season-opening injured reserve. He got injured right at the end of the preseason, so he wasn't able to go through this process a little bit sooner. So he gets sent down, which is where he was expected to be anyways. One other surprise regarding Ottawa today as well. Everybody was expecting Linus Ullmark to make the start tonight on the road in Utah, and it turns out he's not quite ready yet. So they have recalled Levi Meriläinen. So Forsberg will start. Meriläinen will be his backup for tonight. We're optimistic and hopeful that Ullmark will play maybe the next game on a road trip. They do have a few more days off after tonight. And they sent Cole Reinhardt back to the minors as well. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, the Toronto Maple Leaf defenseman, has been fined $5,000 for interference against Tampa Bay Lightning forward Jake Guentzel. I saw the play on last night's prime game between the Lightning and the Leafs. It was called a penalty as well. So part of me is a little bit surprised it's a fine because it was called a penalty, but it is 100% interference. There is no doubt. I know some people have been referring to it as a reverse hit, and it kind of is in a sense, except it's not what you would call a legal reverse hit, I guess. I mean, because he goes into him backwards and uses the backside of his body to deliver the check, but they're both going for the puck. Neither player has the puck, which is important to know. Normally a reverse check is when you have the puck and you hit the player that's coming at you. Sometimes it's in reverse and sometimes it's not. Either way, to me this is definitely interference. 100%. Guentzel was not expecting to be hit. They're both going for the puck. Neither one of them has the puck, and he absolutely nailed them pretty hard. Those two had been going at each other, I think, a few different times throughout the game as well. So a little bit of history there. So, but it was called a penalty. I mean, it's definitely not more than a fine, that's for sure. I've seen a lot of people commenting on this play on social media. I did share it on my X account. There's a clip of it. If you hadn't seen it, you can go on there and check it out and join the conversation to let people know what you think. But I know, a lot of people are saying you can't do a reverse hit anymore, that the Leafs are getting it worse than other teams. And you know what? I will admit this. That's why I'm surprised that it's a fine, because it was called a penalty. A lot of times when you see fines, it's because things were not picked up by the refs and there was no penalty on the play. And we've seen this play enough other times. Not exactly like this. I'm sure if we dig enough, we'll find some examples. But, I don't know. It does seem a little weird to me that it's both a penalty and a fine. Is it an illegal play? Yes. Does it deserve something? Yes. But I'm not sure that it deserved both. But it is what it is. It's only $5,000, thankfully, but it's the moral of it more than anything else. Lots of other updates here today as well. We got, like I said, Matthew Tkachuk is returning for Florida tonight. He's been out. They've been calling it an illness for Tkachuk. He talked to the media today, and he says he wasn't sick, that he actually had to have a procedure done. We don't know what the procedure was. He did not say. Obviously, it's not a huge recovery, but he's been out for somewhere between 7 to 10 days. I know he played the Ottawa game on the road, and then after that, he was out. So, I'm not really clear what it was, but they've been calling it an illness when clearly it was not. So, as we know, a lot of times we don't get transparency from NHL teams. The Avalanche have activated defenseman Devon Toews, so that'll be a huge addition back for them. The Islanders, after clearing waivers, have reassigned Julien Gauthier to the minors to the AHL, and they've recalled Liam Foudy. Notice Pierre Engvall, who was the long-term deal, went through waivers to start the season, was not the one that was recalled for the opportunity today. He's got 1 goal so far in 5 AHL games. So clearly the Islanders are giving some other players opportunities ahead of him. Quick update as well on the Canucks forward Dakota Joshua, who of course has not yet played this year due to a procedure he had in the offseason that came as a surprise later on. He's still about a week or two away, but he has been skating and practicing, so he's making progress, which is certainly good news there. The San Jose Sharks have sent down Thomas Bordeleau and Shakir Mukabadulin. So they're both going to be reassigned down to their AHL club. So they're already without Celebrini, who we said is going to be a couple more weeks. So some of these younger players are still, I guess in their opinion, not quite ready. St. Louis also placed defenseman Nick Leddy on injured reserve today. So that will be at least a 7-day process for him to make his return. Could be longer. We'll have to wait and see. The St. Louis Blues today announced the signing of Jake Neighbours. Of course, the youngster, former first rounder of the Blues, has had a good start to his young career there. We know Doug Armstrong in St. Louis has been a huge fan of the bridge deal. You don't see too many youngsters going from their rookie deal to the long-term a 7-8 year deal in St. Louis. It's not a common trend, but he gets a 2-year deal at $3.75. He's proven to be a pretty good secondary scorer. Still, all the parts of his game I think definitely could be improved and will be. He's nowhere near his peak yet, but Neighbours has been a good player, good addition for them, and certainly a well-deserved extension. And then we just got word a short time ago that Florida Panthers head coach Paul Maurice has been extended. Of course, he's had nothing but phenomenal success since joining the Panthers. Of course, long-time, well-experienced NHL coach, has had more success in Florida than anywhere else in his career. Both his seasons there have led to Stanley Cup appearances, once finals loss, once Stanley Cup champion, and now they're on season 3 trying to see what they can do again, and they're still a really good team trying to see if they can repeat. So Paul Maurice and the staff have done a phenomenal job there. One of the funniest head coaches to listen to. I mean, he's got such a dry, sarcastic sense of humor. Usually one of the best coaches as far as getting like sound bites and quotes from, at least in my opinion. So no surprise here. Very much a well-deserved extension for head coach Paul Maurice. Now, as I mentioned, we've got a variety of things around the Montreal Canadiens I want to take a look at. We have some news around injuries, roster moves, and then some rumors as well about the future, part of which comes from fourthperiod.com and part of which is from BPM Sports. So in Montreal, we know that Slafkovsky looked like he hurt his shoulder in practice back not too long ago, a few days back, but he did go on the road trip and he did play. So I'm not sure, maybe he shouldn't have played, I don't know, but now they're saying he's out for at least a week. He's going to be reevaluated after a week. So that usually means, minimum of a week. Doesn't always mean longer, but quite often it does. We will have to wait and see exactly what that means. But obviously for the next 7 days, Slafkovsky is not going to play. The Montreal injury bug is so bizarre. The last, I think, going on 3 years now, they've lost so many more man games than any other franchise. And you have to wonder, are they cursed? What's going on? I know that even during this new, it's not really new anymore, but during the Gorton Hughes regime, they've even changed a ton when it comes to their medical stuff and staff and like all that. Like there's been a lot of changes trying to handle these injuries and deal with them as best as possible so that they can reduce this and make players, hopefully be able to, get the treatments they need and whatever they, obviously all NHL teams want to do that, but, there's been a lot of changes in Montreal and it still seems to be happening. So I don't really know that we can blame anybody here. I mean, injuries are quite often things you can't prepare for. They're quite often fluky things that happen. Some of it can be training related. Some of it is not. I mean, obviously the better, you can, there's a lot of things players can do to help prepare their body so that they're, better prepared to not be injured, but it's not foolproof. It's not 100%, something you can do and say, I'm not going to get hurt. So at the end of the day here, that's terrible news that he's going to be out, but hopefully it's not too long and proves to be something not too serious. Arbor Jacki will remain a healthy scratch tonight for the second consecutive game. We are going to see tonight Michael Pezzetta get into the lineup for the very first time tonight. They are going to be playing the New York Rangers, and I believe on the Rangers side, I don't think Matt Rempe is in. I don't think Marty St. Louis was really factoring in Jackie's play for whether or not Rempe was playing or not. Like I said, I've seen there seems to be a different voice of opinion on Jackie, and we're going to talk about him a little bit further because he was very much a big subject on BPM Sports and George Larac. Kind of mixed feelings here. He's kind of saying that he feels with the way things are going with Arbor Jackie that he may not have a long future with Montreal, and it feels like it's possible that his days could be numbered. We've seen Jackie, be a healthy scratch a couple times. They have a ton of young D there. At the same time, he says if they did move on from Jackie, that eventually they may regret it and they may miss his presence back there. So here's the thing, my take on Jackie, and I've seen him play a lot. I didn't see every single Montreal game in the last few years, but I've seen him enough. And I just find that based on how Marty St. Louis seems to view him lately, and based on his comments, based on his play, I honestly think that Marty St. Louis does value Jackie in his presence and his ability to stick up for his teammates and to drop the gloves when need be necessary and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he wants him to be a well-rounded defenseman. To be honest, if you look at forwards that play that role, it's often easier. There's way more forwards than there are defensemen. So if you're constantly losing a D for extended minutes, you're putting more taxing minutes on your other D, right? So it's a more difficult task and job as a, sheriff defenseman, if you will. Okay? Not to say that he can't handle himself. He's obviously can drop them and fight with the best of them. He's proven that. He's big. He's strong. He can throw them. He's tough. That's all good. I don't think anybody has any issues with him there. But he's not great defensively. And so not only is it a difficult role because of his position and the fact, like I said, how much more of an impact. You take a fourth line forward who ends up sitting out, 5-10 minutes, whatever, in penalties, it's not such a big deal. You have way more bodies that can replace him and not, to play more. Whereas on the back end, there's just not as much. It's just the nature of how the teams are built. So there is that. And secondly, because of his role, you need him to be able to play a regular shift and not be a liability. So looking at all the options that Montreal has in that back end, I'm not sure how long we're going to see Mike Matheson and David Savard be Montreal Canadiens. I don't think Savard may not be back after this year. It's a real possibility. This is his last year in Montreal. Do they consider extending him? It wouldn't be a complete shocker if he signed an extra year or two on a lesser value. Maybe they keep him around. They need somebody to be a veteran there. But obviously Lane Hutson's proven to be an offensive dynamo. Gooley's looking real good. Strubl's been solid so far. You've got obviously besides Jack Guy, you moved on from Jordan Harris, so he's out of the equation now. You've got Mayu, who's had a little bit of action. Ryan Bacher, who's still coming up. I don't know, right? Like you got to look and be like, okay, what's this decor going to look like in a couple of years' time? And I understand why Larac thinks that Jack Guy may end up being a trade casualty in the not too distant future. It's really difficult to say, right? Teams are going to value him, but it makes it tough. I think there are times when Marty St. Louis, like he said it in the preseason, he doesn't, because in the preseason I think Jack Guy was kind of running around and looking like a headhunter. Kind of trying to create a role that he already had. I just think it was too much, trying too hard. I think if he would have focused more on just being a better defenseman, he would have done himself more favors. Clearly, they value what he brings, and they know he can do all that. If I were me, I would have been trying to show that I can. You already know I can do all those things, and I've worked hard to improve my defensive game too. Is he pitching a little bit on the offense? He's got the occasional big bomb, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be known for a ton of offense. It's going to be for the tough stuff, right? So, could he play himself out of a job there and become a trade piece? It's certainly possible. And here's the other thing. Other teams are going to value that and be interested too. Like if you look at the Anaheim Ducks and all the Trevor Zegras rumors, I can see him being a perfect Pat Verbeek kind of player. I can't say for sure what the asking price was. We know there were conversations between the Habs and the Ducks around Zegras. Would not be one bit surprised if his name was brought up from the other side as a request. Now, the other thing, too, so that comes from BPM Sports and George Larac, and I know some Montreal people don't always value what he has to say, but obviously from a guy who played that role, I can understand his perspective from that one. Now, the fourthperiod.com has also had an interesting article today saying all eyes on Kirby Dach and Marty St. Louis. So basically talking about Kirby Dach and the fact he's had a slow start, which is not completely shocking by anybody. Anybody who knows this game and follows it closely should not have expected Dach to have a crazy hot start. He missed a ton of hockey last year and is coming off a very serious ACL injury. The fact that he might look a little bit slower or tentative to start the year should be expected, and I think it was. But the fact is, at this point, after, 6-7 games, he's -8, or 6 games it is, he's -8 with 1 point. He hasn't looked good. He's definitely looked slower out there, and the article also mentions a lack of awareness. So maybe it's from being a little tentative. I don't know. Some players have, if you think about having a serious injury, there is a mental health aspect of it that comes with it as well, and how you're thinking, and you may be timid, you may be scared of being re-injured. Like, there's lots of things going through your mind, and I'm not saying any of that is happening with him, but it could be. I don't know. It's just speculation. At the same time, no matter what the reasons are, he hasn't had a good start. He was brought in to be the number 2 center. At this point, with Slafkovsky being out, tonight they're going to give him a chance to play with Caulfield and Suzuki. Maybe that'll help get him going. Maybe he long-term won't be a centerman. Maybe long-term he is going to have to be a winger. Hard to say, right? So, but his line mates, Newhook and Armia, not having good starts either. And all these guys kind of look, maybe not Dach, but the other guys looked a lot better in the preseason. And, you can't blame Dach for the line mates, but in all seriousness, he is a big role in that line. If he's not going, the other guys will struggle to create for themselves, right? So clearly the article talks about the fact that they've acquired Dach with the plan of him being their number 2 center. And if that doesn't work out, they wonder if that's going to force Ken Hughes to maybe consider other options and to maybe make a move. Doesn't mean 100% that Dach gets traded, but it could be. They right now for tonight, they've elevated Oliver Kapanen to give him a shot as the 2C. Right now, the other thing I've mentioned before, Christian Dvorak, I don't see him coming back. He's on an expiring contract after 3 years, and there's just in the last couple of days more rumors that he's likely going to be gone soon. If they can find a taker, that is, it's going to be his last season in Montreal. I think we can say that with a good amount of certainty. But again, they don't see him as a 2C opportunity, right? Newhook at one point was a center. He's been playing more wing in Montreal. I don't know if he's really asserted himself to really be a candidate for the 2C role. You've got all these players. You got Laine on the injured list, right? Suddenly you might find yourself not deep enough at center. Yes, you got a guy like Michael Hage. He's coming in, but that's still a couple years away. Could they revisit a trade for a center? I know a centerman they were greatly linked to, and his name is Trevor Zegras. And I'm not saying that they're going to revisit that, but it does make you wonder. Dach is a big, strong forward. Yes, he's had some serious injuries. I don't know what a Dach Jack-Eye package interests the Ducks. We had heard before that they wanted one of their top young defensemen. It was going to probably be Goulet or Reinbacher was going to be the asking price. Now, that may or may not have changed. I don't know. I don't see the Habs moving Goulet. They view him as a top pair D long term. But the other guys, I don't know how they feel. Has anything changed on how they feel about Reinbacher? I don't know. But if these other guys are like Dach and like Jack-Eye, if they're, are they potential trade pieces? And it's not saying that they are definitely going to be, but you just have to wonder. And the article also talks about the fact of, is there pressure on Marty St. Louis? During the whole time he's been coaching the last few years, we've seen improvements. But the Habs have had better starts in last year than they have this year. So they're not trending towards showing improvement. I mean, it's early. There's lots of hockey left. So this is just a very early, and I don't think we're going to see Marty St. Louis get fired. I know he's got a great relationship with the coach and the general manager. If it ever came to that, I think, to be honest, I think he'd probably resign. I don't think we're ever going to, I'm not sure that he will be fired. They may make a change at some point. He probably won't be the coach there forever. But they need to decide if they're seeing enough that he's the coach to take it to the next level. That's what they have to decide. And that to some degree, there is a bit of a referendum out on him this year. I don't think it's a ton of pressure. I don't see it happening anytime soon. You'd have to think after, I think it was 78 points, I believe it was, that they need to get up to about probably 85, 86 points and be playing meaningful games late in the year. Because, in the last few years, we've seen the playoff cutoff be like around, 90 to 92, 93 points. Like, they got to be at least pushing the mid to high 80s so they're not too far off the mark, right? For it to really be considered a successful season. So, obviously that's on him as well. And he talks all the time to the media. He admits he doesn't know everything. He's still learning as a coach as well. When he doesn't know how to handle something, he researches it, talks to people. Like, it's all good. Like, and I'm not saying they've lost faith in him or anything of that nature. But if the Habs don't see that improvement this year, would they consider, a change? Will they lose confidence that he'll be the guy to take it to another level? For some guys, he's been really good. And you have to be, kind of cautious here that, are you going to impact, like Caulfield, for example, prime example, how he turned a major corner? Is he going to take a step back with a different coach and maybe a different style and all that too, right? So at the end of the day, is this going to be like a referendum type season on the ability of Marty St. Louis to take this team to another level? Is Kirby Dach going to maybe as the season goes on, could he become a trade piece if he's not going to work out to be that number 2 center? Because even though he's playing top line on the wing with Caulfield and Suzuki, that's really the spot for Slafkovsky long term. And he's the first overall pick, homegrown, drafted, developed talent. They're not going to move him before Dach, right? So, can Dach be a winger on line 2? Or does he become a trade piece if he's not going to be that 2C? They're going to have to find the 2C somewhere else, and the same with Jack Guy. Like I said, I think they do value him greatly. So I don't think they're going to make a rush job here and make a big decision on Jack Guy anytime soon. But, as the season goes along, if they find him one-dimensional, not improving defensively, it could lead to that. So it's hard to say. But let me know, with these young Habs players, not all of them are going to be long-term Habs. Could Dach and Jack Guy be long-term trade pieces? Is Marty St. Louis going to continue to coach this team if they don't take a big step forward this year? Let me know what your thoughts are on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.